She was never allowed to say what was wrong, so the wallpaper said it for her. A room can be a kindness, a place to rest, a place to recover. But if you cannot choose to leave it, it becomes something else entirely. She was told the room was for her own good, that the rest would help, that the quiet would heal her. Her husband was a physician. He was certain, and because he was a physician, his certainty carried the weight of fact, and because he was her husband, his word carried the weight of law. No one, including her, was permitted to disagree. She tried to explain that something was wrong, not with the room. With her, with the way her mind felt after the baby was born, with the way the world had gone flat and grey and strange. She could feel something pressing down on her, but she could not name it, and because she could not name it, no one believed it was real. He smiled. He called her darling. He told her she was improving. And he decided she would stay in the room. Charlotte Perkins Gilman published the Yellow Wallpaper in 1892. It is barely 10 pages long. It reads like a diary, and it is one of the most unsettling pieces of American fiction ever written. The story is told entirely through the voice of a woman who is never named. She has recently had a child. She is unwell, not physically, but in a way she cannot quite articulate. Her husband, John, is a doctor. He diagnoses her with a temporary nervous condition. The treatment is rest, complete rest. No work, no writing, no visitors, no stimulation of any kind. They take a house in the country for the summer, a grand old estate. She is placed in a large upstairs room, a former nursery perhaps. The windows are barred, the bed is bolted to the floor, and the walls are covered in yellow wallpaper. She dislikes it immediately. The colour, the pattern, the way it seems to shift when she looks at it too long. The treatment she is given was real. It was called the rest cure, and it was prescribed to thousands of women in the late 19th century. The theory was simple. Women who were anxious or depressed were overstimulated. The cure was to remove all intellectual activity, all creative work, all independence. Gilman herself underwent the rest cure. Her doctor told her to live as domestic a life as possible and never touch pen, brush, or pencil again. She later said it drove her to the edge of complete mental ruin. The narrator of the story knows that something is wrong with her treatment. She writes in secret, hiding her journal when John or his sister enters the room. She believes that work and company would do her good. But she cannot say so, because John is a physician, because John is her husband, because his authority is both medical and marital. And so she lies quietly in the room and stares at the wallpaper. At first, it is just ugly, a dull, smeared yellow with a pattern that follows no logic. She describes it as revolting, unclean, a colour she cannot name precisely, something between sulphur and old mustard and rotten fruit. The pattern commits every artistic sin. It repeats, but incorrectly. It curves, but never resolves. But she has nothing else to look at. No books, no company, no work. And so she looks. Days pass, weeks. The pattern begins to organize itself in her mind. She starts to trace it, the way the curves repeat, the way they break, the way some shapes seem to sit behind others like figures behind bars. A front pattern, a back pattern, 2 layers, one visible, one half hidden. And behind the back pattern, in certain light, particularly at night, particularly by moonlight, she begins to see something moving, not clearly, not yet. Just a shape, a suggestion of a figure, something that seems to be crouching or creeping. She mentions it to no one. John visits the room. He tells her she is getting better. He weighs her food. He monitors her sleep. He asks if she is comfortable. She asks if they might visit friends. He says no. She asks if she might write. He says it would only make things worse. She asks if they might change the wallpaper. He laughs, gently, lovingly. He tells her that giving in to such fancies is the very thing that is making her ill. And this is the mechanism that Gilman describes so precisely, the way care becomes control, the way kindness becomes a cage. John does not raise his voice. He does not threaten. He holds her and calls her his little girl and tells her that he knows best. There is no cruelty in him, only certainty. And certainty, in a person with power, is one of the most dangerous things in the world. The figure behind the wallpaper becomes clearer. It is a woman. She is certain of it now. A woman crouching behind the pattern, sometimes shaking it, sometimes pressing against it. At night, the pattern changes. The front design becomes bars, and the woman behind them is trying to get out. The narrator watches her, studies her. She begins sleeping during the day so that she can observe the wallpaper at night. She does not tell John. She does not tell anyone. She starts to notice a yellow stain on her own clothing, a particular smell that clings to the room. She begins peeling the paper from the wall, just small pieces, at the edges, where the pattern is already torn. She's not frightened. That is what makes it so disturbing. She is focused, methodical. She has found something in the wallpaper that is more real to her than anything John has ever said. During the day, she sees the woman outside, creeping along the garden paths, moving beneath the trees, always close to the ground, always moving, always looking behind her. She wonders how the woman got out. She wonders if there are many of them. She begins to believe there are. She sees them everywhere now, in the hedgerows along the road, behind the house, in every patch of shade. All creeping, all confined, all trying to move without being seen. She does not find this strange. She finds it familiar. The boundary between the narrator and the woman in the wallpaper has begun to dissolve. And Gilman makes this shift so gently, so gradually, that the reader does not notice the moment it happens. There is no dramatic break, no sudden scene, just a quiet slide from observation into identification. She is no longer watching the woman behind the pattern. She is becoming her. On the last day, she locks the door. She tears the wallpaper from the walls in long strips. She works methodically, pulling away the front pattern to free the woman behind it. When John comes home, she will not let him in. He calls her name. He begs. He fetches the key and opens the door. She is creeping along the floor, moving in a slow, steady circuit around the room, her shoulder pressed to the wall where the paper has been torn. She tells him she has got out, despite him, despite the door, despite the wallpaper. She cannot be put back. John faints. She notes it, calmly, almost with curiosity, and then she continues creeping, around and around and around, stepping over his body each time she passes. The story ends there. There is no resolution, no rescue, no recovery. The story simply stops, and the silence it leaves behind is deliberate. Gilman wrote this story as a direct response to her own experience. She sent a copy to the doctor who had prescribed her the rest cure, Silas Weir Mitchell, one of the most respected physicians in America. She later said she never heard whether it changed his practice. But the story outlived the treatment. The rest cure fell out of favor. The story remains, because what it describes is not historical. It is structural. It is what happens when one person's understanding of another takes the place of that person's understanding of themselves. The narrator was not destroyed by illness. She was destroyed by the treatment, by the removal of her voice, by the steady, patient, loving insistence that she did not know her own mind. She was told to rest. She was told to stop thinking. She was told to trust someone who would not listen to her. And so she found something in the wallpaper that would. The woman behind the pattern is not a hallucination. She is a mirror, trapped behind a surface that everyone else finds perfectly normal, pressing against a structure that no one else can see. The yellow wallpaper does not ask you to pity her. It asks you to notice how long she tried to speak before the wallpaper became the only thing that listened.